I would rather make sure to prioritize the, let's say, relationship and the trust part of it, because it's humans doing business, and then maybe sometimes trust the process that and not focus solely on numbers, even though it is at the end a numbers game.
In this episode of Oplev Salg, we explore the role of sales inside complex international organization. How does sales connect product, marketing, and distributors to real customer needs? Today's guest is Pia Stangerup, Chief Sales Officer at XO Care, a medical technology manufacturer selling through international distributor networks.
It is always to keep, let's say, the hurdle race towards the customer in mind, because, there are bottlenecks throughout the equation, and you don't succeed more than the narrowest bottleneck, so to speak, and that changes over time.
Pia has built and led commercial organization across markets, navigating the realities of complex products, long sales cycles, and cross-border execution. Pia, welcome.
Pia, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start from the very beginning. Many sales leaders do not have some grand plan to be in sales, but rather their path is kind of shaped as they do and as they work. How come you decided to focus on sales and be in sales for so many years?
I think it started with my choice of education already, because I'm educated within international negotiation, which of course now in the hindsight makes a lot of sense. It wasn't deciding into sales. My first sales job, though, came when I was studying selling subscriptions, newspaper subscriptions for Berlingske Tidende. So was it a decision? No, it was more a natural result of personality and preferences.
And today you are Chief Sales Officer at XO Care. How do you define sales in XO Care? How it's being organized?
It is, let's say, it's the interface from product to end customer, or meeting customer needs. Meaning that we have, let's say, until a couple of years ago, defined ourselves as a product company. I think goes with many of the companies where I've been, and many companies with high-tech products. So it's the bridge, or the closing that gap from product to customer needs. It's also from, let's say, inside XO Care to external. So it's the glue and the bridge and the infrastructure.
Yeah, what you're saying really reminds me to what in academia we very often define sales as boundary spanner role.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, when you take that definition into your everyday life, is there any situations where you believe that role is misunderstood or under-leveraged?
Under-leveraged indeed, and not understood indeed, because I can see from my daily work, it's both ensuring that at the end, as end customers understand what they can achieve with our solutions. That means that we, let's say, facilitate the hurdle race towards the customer, and it's up to us to facilitate it, as well as bringing the, let's say, voice of the customer and here end customer, as well as our distributors / certified partners, which is what they're called in XO Care, to bring their voice into the product development. So that is indeed underpinning that. That's also being a part of shaping the vision and the strategy for the company, and following it, and recognizing it's at the end customer when they feed back to us why they invested in our solutions.
And so if I understand you correctly, so customers do feed into sales, and then sales feed into maybe research and development information. Are there some frictions between sales and maybe research and development in terms of the information that are being obtained from the market?
Of course, and fortunately so, I would even say, because when we bring, let's say, my team, which is both sales and service, we meet a lot of customers, and that's end customer, that's partners. they feed back to us, what they're missing, what could work better, how, they imagine to work, or what situation we could improve their working environment. That's one angle to developing both company and product, of course. Then we have the engineering team who are well educated in engineering, software, mechanical, hardware, etc. And they get their inspiration from, let's say, trends outside of industry. And they believe, this is going to win. Now we come and believe this is going to win. And then it's I wouldn't say a battle, but it's a friction or a necessity in getting to the right solutions, because customers know what they are missing today. They do not necessarily know to answer to the question that we have not posted to them yet, if you understand what I mean. And that's where the innovation, where we also drive, because we have, let's say, we're connected inter-industrial and well in the industry, if it makes sense. So I think it's a necessity. It's a battle, but it's very, very good that it's present.
And I really like that you are talking about this tension that maybe exists between sales and research and development in a positive way. That when we have that tension, we are really able to navigate tension and to get something good out of it, which is going to be efficient and productive and beneficial at the end of the day for both sides, customers and the company. But if we would like to dive deep into this tension, over years of your experience, are you maybe able to identify what is the source of the tension, or maybe misalignment? Is it different formal education background, or are we talking different language? Do we understand each other? Now focusing on sales and research and development, or maybe it's something deeper. So what is the core of the tension or source of the tension?
Yeah, what's the source? I think it's multiple. It is, of course, you can say when you are in sales, you are very focused on the customer needs and how to make customer benefits from your solutions, because then they buy it. Then you don't even have to sell it, because they buy it themselves. And that's the very strong focus of sales. The very strong focus of development is product. And they don't spend a lot of time in the field or in, let's say, in the luxury of innovation. And therefore, they're not exposed to the same call as we are, call from customers or trends. And they're more into, let's say, following the engineering background, which is more, let's say, product focused, obviously, because that's the education, that's their preferences. If you ask them where did it start, it most likely started also prior to choosing education. And they don't appreciate, or they're not as exposed to the voice of the market that much.
What you're saying is really interesting, because it reminds me to one oldie but goldie article that was published many years back in Harvard Business Review in 2006. So it's now already 20 years. And the article has very interesting title, Ending War Between Marketing and Sales. Yes. And then it was promoting the idea that, yes, there is certain, war or tension between marketing and sales, and then providing some very specific and concrete activities that decision makers can do to make these two departments closer than they originally are. So I'm wondering, do you maybe have some tips or tricks or advices how to align sales and development, for example, because you said people from development, they don't spend that much time with the customers, or they don't spend time at all. So are there some rules of the game that you established throughout years to understand how to make them closer?
Yeah, and yes, and it goes both for sales and marketing, sales, marketing, development. Now in ExoCare, being a smaller organization than some of the former organizations I've been in, where we work very, very closely on, let's say, meeting customer needs. It's a very sales-driven marketing team at Exocare, very customer-centric. But of course, again, as with product development or R&D, marketing is driving the channels of communication. It's the brand, it's the brand guidelines, it's the SOMI, the channels, etc. It's very sometimes hard for them to, let's say, accept the fact that our distribution partners, for example, are not living up to our brand guidelines in describing the brand, in describing the products, in, let's say, running the campaigns or running the messaging as tight as we do. And of course it is, because it's their job to let's say, push that agenda. The fact is, unfortunately, also that we're not alone at the partners. And that's where it becomes difficult. And when we have, when we work on mind share with our partners, we do that in various topics. One of them is marketing-wise, presenting our solutions the best way possible. But it's a multiple string. So that's one of the topics where we succeed together, but not always have, let's say, the same prioritization.
And so we've been talking about role of sales internally within the company and relationship with other cross-functional units, and now we're moving a little bit more to external role of sales, especially in relationship with distributors, because you're operating on international markets with wide variety of distributors. And I'm always wondering, in this situation, who owns the customer? Is it a distributor that owns the customer, or manufacturing firm, in this in this case Exocare, to owns the customer? How do you navigate?
It's the center of discussion. And I think, first of all, I believe it's a shared ownership. And that's because when I look on end customers, here being in dental industry or dental practices, we develop, deliver the product and the concept. Our partners deliver the after sales and the service. So, one can't come without the other. Historically, and that's not only in Exocare, but also in the other companies I've been at, it was a matter of, let's say, the manufacturer delivering the product at the doorstep and then hoping that it would arrive well at the end customer. That scheme is changing, because we of course believe that we own the customer as much as our partners.
And what partners would say on that?
The ones who also understand that the dynamics are changing. I would say, from my perspective, a lot of my partners or our XO partners understands this, because they understand that their value is very much dependent on the value we create. And our understanding of the end customer is very important, again, to make their business sustainable. Some of them understand it, other of them are hesitant to let us interact with the end customer, because, then you could argue, what's my value in this? Which I honestly, from a pure heart, doesn't understand, because if, again, you can't force yourself upon someone just because, you're trying to push other away from the equation. I believe it has to be a strong partnership. I believe you have a shared ownership. And again, do you own customers? Customers are there if value the service and product you offer. So in order to meet the customer needs and keep them in, let's say, in the family, it's a shared ownership. But it's changing, and I think it's changing, let's say, in many industries.
So it's changed, or it is a shared ownership, and I completely agree with it. But I assume there is another level of challenge, because most of your distributors, I would assume, are not exclusive distributors that are exclusively distributing your own products, but they are also distributors for maybe competitors or some products that could go with products that you are producing. So how to deal with that new layer of complexity?
Yeah, we have from let's say one point, we have partners who solely are working with our products. So they are, of course, very, very dependent on what we deliver and the partnership. Otherwise, they're out of business. Then we have some others who are very big in products offering as well, offering similar or alternative products as well as complementarily. So they can have up to 800 products. So our challenge is that for the ones where we're just one of many, we're there because it's strategically important for them that we're there. Because there are customers demanding our solution, and that is customers wanting exactly what we offer. And that makes interaction from us to end customer very, very important. And that, of course, also, let's say, keeps a good balance between us and the partners, that they know and we know that this is a strategically important solution for them.
You mentioned that you do have some distributors who are working exclusively with you. And in academia lately, we are discussing concept of these close relationships. Because usually we would consider these close relationships between manufacturer and distributor as something which is very positive. But nowadays we're also realizing that sometimes these close relationships could be blinding a little bit, or maybe put you in a position that you're not aware of certain behavior of distributor. Can I ask you for comment on that, or at least something based on your experience? Did you experience some close relationships with distributors to have some negative effects or some disadvantages?
Now, when you say closed relationship, what we have is that we have multiple partners in more or less every market, where it's very, very rare that we have one partner who is exclusively our partner in a area. So we have multiple sources of information, market information, and then we are often at exhibitions, at events, social media, in contact. So I'm not, no, I don't see it as...
Okay, but then it seems that you're also triangulating information. That you are really obtaining not only from a single source, but rather from multiple sources on the market.
Based also on the fact that we have very engaged end customers. So they are reaching out to us, and then we have multiple partners often.
You are present internationally or globally, and working with distributors in many different countries, meaning different cultures, different way of running the business, establishing a relationship, doing business. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because sometimes being based in Denmark, we even consider covering countries around Denmark as international expansion, but you go much beyond that.
Now, I'm so fortunate that I have been present in a big part of the world. It's a fact of accepting that it's very different. A lot of other nationalities are very different and value different things than we do. Denmark is not the center of the universe. And being in the market, being with partners in their part of the world is, let's say, establishing the trust and the communication and the shared understanding. And that's one of the keys to succeeding, is understanding what is happening. What are they valuing? What's the dynamics? How are they communicating? How are they dealing? What's the dynamics? And then you can ensure your communication runs the entire way through.
Can you maybe share some of the insights? So, for example, if you would be asked by someone who is considering Asian market or South Asian market, to be specific, Are there some specifics that you would like to share around doing business in markets which are very much different to markets that we are familiar with in Europe?
Yeah, I can say from one of my experiences in China, for example, that there you have to be very, very strict on the, let's say, the hierarchy. Who speaks first, who drinks first, who presents first. It's a fine row of happenings until you have a shared understanding of where you go. And then it's connecting and connecting and connecting. That's one way of doing it. When we are in Italy, for example, it's a lot of negotiating back and forth, and we are part of the equation, and it's a bit hectic where it's a bit more distance in the north. Even though I experience now in ExoCare, we're primarily in Europe, and I experience that we're moving internationally, moving culture-wise a bit closer to each other.
No, in what way?
In that we also introduce them to each other, so they also learn from each other and learn the dynamics and get inspired from each other and from our collaboration.
That's super interesting, and I can imagine how your day at work looks like by interacting with all these different stakeholders, but also trying to adjust to their cultural norms around the world. We are approaching to the end of our podcast, so I have some final questions for you. So looking back across your leadership experience, what is the biggest lesson you've learned about the role of sales in organizations?
It is always to keep, let's say, the hurdle race towards the customer in mind, because, there are bottlenecks throughout the equation, and you don't succeed more than the narrowest bottleneck, so to speak, and that changes over time. So be aware of whether it's in the market at the end customer, whether it's in, let's say, in the partner setup, that you also have to keep on, let's say, developing, or whether it's in your own, let's say, international team, whether it's in headquarters. It's always keeping an eye on every part of that equation. Otherwise, you tend to oversee the challenges.
And I cannot help myself to have one more follow-up question, because I guess that when we start with our career, we tend to prioritize some of the activities, or tend to prioritize some of the relationships and whatsoever. If you would be able to give yourself advice many years back, is there something that you believe should be deprioritized?
I think, let me say, I would rather make sure to prioritize the, let's say, relationship and the trust part of it, because it's humans doing business, and then maybe sometimes, let's say, trust the process that and not focus solely on numbers, even though it is at the end a numbers game, but results come from, let's say, activities. So ensure the activities.
Thank you so much for that, because now I will quote you often with my students, because sometimes, especially nowadays, having in mind the rapid development of technology, I have a feeling that we tend to forget that at the end of the day, humans are doing business. Pia, thank you so much. For those listening, if you lead sales, remember, your job isn't just to close deal, it's to connect organizations to reality.
Yes, thank you.